Oh, what's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today's Best Served Podcast 371, talking with Scott Schaden of Terra Restaurant on opening delays, on menu stories, on workplace culture, basically all the things you know that are so important. And I'm excited about this episode because I've mentioned this. I don't talk enough about the work that we do with our clients. We're trying to change an entire industry. So sometimes the things that happen behind the scenes happen behind the scenes. And Scott is somebody we've been working with. I'm so excited that he's taken up so many of the challenges that we've put forth that you know so well, that are kind of mantra, that are the mission at Best Served. And this is also doubly exciting for me because Terra Restaurant is located in the lower level of the Spire building, Denver, Colorado, in the Performing Arts Convention Center kind of corridor at 14th and Champa. 10 years ago, I was the chef at Row 14, the very first restaurant in that location. So it's this whole like coming home story kind of thing of having both these fond memories and a little bit of PTSD from that location. So I'm excited to have Scott. I want to bring Scott in now to talk with us. Scott, good to see you.
Hey, what's up, Jensen? How you doing?
I am doing great. Like I said, I'm so excited. We've been getting to work together. We've been on an emotional roller coaster together. You especially. Opening a restaurant is fucking terrifying and exciting, and you felt all that. And sometimes you and I have worked on things that are very actionable, very like we get shit done. Other times it's like, let's just rap for a minute because this stuff is hard. It really, really is hard. And especially when you're an entrepreneur, it can be lonely. You're out on an island. So I've appreciated the banter and the relationship we've been able to build through this process. Before we talk about some of those things, opening delays, we're going to talk menu store, we're going to talk workplace culture, all kind of hot, important topics right now. Terra Restaurant, talk to us a little bit. What's the mission? What's the vision there? What can I expect when you open here in the next month or so? It's exciting, man.
Yeah. At Terra, we represent the Rocky Mountain region and the Pacific Coast, our region of America, and we obsessively support those communities and those resources. Yeah. We are an upscale regional American restaurant with a huge focus on not just locally sourced ingredients, but native ingredients to our region and our coast. And we really just kind of want to bring the ethos of our cooking into a hyper concentrated climate of our specific region.
Yes, let me unpack that. I love the name Terra. It wasn't something that I was first familiar with the word, but it kind of felt like the word terroir. Found out that in fact is basically what it means. And you were trying to really, really like tap into you being a Colorado native, having spent so much time cooking kind of Italian cuisine and these high-end cuisines that were coming from somewhere else. You wanted to ask the question of what it meant to cook things from your own backyard, from kind of the what you call the Terra of the American West, kind of this Wild West mentality. What are the ingredients? What comes from the land? What history of people and culture and struggle and strife can you bring together and put on a plate? So I'm really excited about that notion. Lots of lofty goals that you have. Huge opportunity, tons of challenges to be able to get something new and different and try and like represent the Rocky Mountain region in a unique way. So I really, really respect that about you. One of the things that we talk about is these menu stories, right? I challenge everybody. If you cannot write a 250-word article about every single dish on your menu, then why the fuck is it on your menu? You're hype chasing, right? And you took up that challenge, and I was shocked what a good writer you were, Scott. And you wrote what we're calling Venison Ragu, a novel. And it very much was. We had to cut it down to get it to the right size, not add more and more and more, because, you know, sometimes chefs write a description, it's one sentence, and that's all we can get out of our heads. So I really love that. Venison Ragu, tell us why that story, that dish, maybe for you is iconic for you. How does it represent, again, the Terra of the American West?
I think it's just really representative of our whole concept. You know, I've worked in fine dining Italian most of my career, and such a huge piece of Italian cuisine is tradition and a sense of place, and this is how things are. And it was, as much as I love that, I always wanted to represent my tradition, my place of origin, the flavors that I grew up eating. And what's more Rocky Mountain like West than venison? And ragu is just one of those comfort dishes. I've cooked it everywhere. It's very simple, but it can, pot cooking can represent anything. It can involve all flavors or any ingredients. And they meld together, they blend together to make it so delicious and unctuous. And so it was just kind of one of those things that was a no-brainer. I had to go back and figure out why I made that dish because it just came to my head immediately. Like I was like writing the menu and I was like, oh yeah, venison ragu. That's obvious. I'll write the recipe later, but that's something I want to do.
Yes.
And we worked backwards from there because it just seemed the fundamental cooking techniques that I've learned and mastered over the years combined with the flavors of where I'm from and what I want to represent.
Yeah, and there were two things that I really, really enjoy about your approach to this dish. The one thing that when we got into a little bit of a discussion, trying to dig deep, what I call is finding the thing behind the thing that's the real thing. And there was something with ragu where it was just this amalgamation, right? There's this alchemy that happens in it where it's just these humble individual ingredients, but they're greater than the sum of their parts when they come together in this process. And I really respect that. Every culture has this kind of slowly stewed, just melts together with some kind of game meat or something that was hunted. And you really got me going on that. And then you're hand making and hand extruding, the rigatoni that you're using for this specific dish, other pastas as well. But then you got me kind of, I'm still on the fence, but you got me liking juniper a little bit. Usually juniper reminds me of really cheap gin, but trying that dish, it felt like waking up at a campground and coming out of the tent and getting hit with that Colorado air, that vibrancy to it. So it was a very unique dish, and I really appreciate that. And I know people are going to understand that. And it's humble though. You can make some really, really beautiful food. I've seen what you've done currently and what you've done in the past, but this is just the most humble bowl of pasta, and it just hits on every level. For you, why was that important? Because you could have picked a lot of other, I don't know, sexier dishes, but in our opinion, it doesn't get so much sexier than a bowl of ragu over pasta.
I mean, is there anything that people enjoy eating more than pasta and sauce?
I don't think so.
No. I mean, it's comforting in a way. I mean, that's what you want to eat after a breakup, after you lose the high school basketball game. That's just comfort.
After you win that high school basketball game,
and I think that chefs always talk about layers of flavor, right? Oh, we have so many layers of flavor in this. Ragu's the opposite. It's one layer. You blend everything together into just the one layer, and the way it melts together, it just creates this one beautiful, unique flavor, and it's unique to any ragu that you make.
Yes. Oh, I'm salivating right now. This is great. People are gonna absolutely love that dish, and even just the process. We got to shoot that dish. Corey came down and did some content capture, and seeing Tim, one of your sous chefs, work the extruder and bring that pasta to life. Getting to see Gabe and Lauren, your team, kind of rally around this food. It wasn't about the most difficult, the most extravagant, the most technical, this or that. It was just about, again, all of them as individuals, you as the leader there, the concept of Terra, that dish, it's greater than the sum of its part. And I think that is the opportunity that restaurants truly have to segue into workplace culture, right?
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about that. We were pirates on the pirate ship, Bourdain's kind of acolytes, right? We remember, I remember 3 books that set me on this path. One was the French Laundry Cookbook, where everything could be beautiful. One was Danny Meyer, where I realized hospitality was a real thing. And the other was Kitchen Confidential, where, oh, so other people do cocaine in the bathrooms during their shift too. I get it. There was just that mentality. That has
Those were definitely the 3 books.
Those were the 3 books. I mean, right? Those were the 3 books.
I think we can everyone of a certain generation can relate to that.
Yeah, that has run its course. It has been proven to not be sustainable, and something more, something different, an opportunity for leadership and accountability in a very different way is coming to chefs in this industry. Workplace culture. And by the way, everybody, in the comments are going to be 2 articles. One, an interview that we did with Scott before this, where we'll talk about a little bit more about workplace culture there, as well as the venison ragu story. So make sure you get it in the comments and grab both of those. Workplace culture, though, now you own a business. Now you got to figure out a practical way to actually do that? What were some of the things as we were working through that you said, yes, I want to invest in this element of wages, benefits, culture, education that was different than the way that I came up? And what were a couple of those things for you that were important?
I mean, as an umbrella, I really wanted the job to be something that's sustainable. Every job I had in my career was a means to an end. I'm going to suffer here for 2 years. I'm going to do this for a year and a half. I'm going to learn from this guy, even though he throws pots at me or whatever. I'm going to live like a cockroach for 5 years in Chicago and eat top ramen, even though I'm grilling $300 steaks. You know, it was all a means to an end. And when I was opening this concept, I remember very clearly like arguing with an uncle of mine, and he's like, well, restaurant business is a transitory job. It's a job you have on the way to something else. And I was like, and you know, I want to have this job forever. I never want to leave. I hope I don't ever have to. And I want to create an environment where other people can experience that. Like I want it to be, I don't want this to be a revolving door. I want this to be maybe not your end game. Maybe working for me isn't like your dream of your life, but I want it could be if you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
You could stay here forever and be happy, you know, and I make all of my interviews when I interview people. If I'm like, hey, I like you, and they're like, I really want to work here, I'm like, cool, I want you to go home and think about this for 24 hours. And if you really think after 24 hours of thinking about it that you'll be happy working for me, then you've got the job. But you have to go home and think about it and I've had people come back and be like, you know what, the commute's too far. I really want to work for you, but when I have actually sat down and thought about it, I don't think it's sustainable for me. The commute's too far, this or that. And that's fine. No hard feelings. But that's someone I don't have to replace in 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. The turnover rate, the rate of attrition is so high. It's become this self-fulfilling prophecy. So really appreciate that. And look, it was challenging because all of the P&Ls and the budgets that you had looked at in the past, that I had looked at in the past, never had all of these line items. And there's dozens of line items in your budget, I can attest, that were never in ones before. And you made a strong effort to be able to invest in those things. And this is a challenge that I throw to myself and my media cohorts is like, I'm going to tell all of you out there in food media world about the things that are happening behind the scenes in Terra Restaurant and the way they're investing in people, because I believe that we need to start talking about those as a unique differentiator for what it means to support local restaurants. So a lot more come on the workplace culture. But Scott, I really appreciate you taking that leadership, because it's hard and it's expensive and it's
absolutely.
not what we knew in the past, you know?
I mean, when I worked in restaurants, like I don't know very many old line cooks.
Oh,
because you're so unhealthy as a line cook. you can't live that way forever. You either die or you move on with your life. And I want to create an environment where people can be healthy, that people can actually, you know, maybe not grow too old. It is a physically demanding job, but, you know, come of age, you know, work this job for a long time.
Yeah, I've talked about it dozens and dozens of times. And the 65-year-old line cook getting ready to retire in the restaurant industry after putting 2.5 kids through college and living the American dream is not a reality. Why not? Can we not map towards something that does create that opportunity where they can not be a lifer because it's some kind of like joke on you for getting stuck in this industry, but it's actually a sustainable and viable option for people. I love that. All right. I want to take just a minute because I know so many people out there that are opening restaurants, have open restaurants, are trying to open restaurants right now. Delay. How do you cope? I mean, you were trying to open. I remember the first time we talked, you were trying to open February 14th, Valentine's Day, right? And we're coming up on May this upcoming week, you know, like, so what, how do you cope with that? Because I know people need to hear that from you. It's a struggle.
I mean, it's hard. You know, I look at some role models, you know, guys that suffered worse setbacks than I did. And they stayed the course and they were eventually successful, but you just have to not flinch. And you just look down the barrel of the gun and you do it. And like, you know, worst case scenario, I have to leave the country with all those personal guarantees I just signed, but I signed them one way or the other. So there's no backing out now. So you just look down, you know, there's a certain level of, you just have to stay the course. And don't change your concept. Don't change your plan. For me, I think that that's really important. You know, don't flail around and try and change things.
Yeah.
We had a good idea. It's been harder to execute than we thought. That doesn't make the idea bad. And if I could go back, you and I have talked about it, I would make smarter decisions about the process. There's certain people that I've hired that I hired because I really like their product, but I didn't take time to look at the process that they're going to use. And while the end product is gorgeous and I'm so happy with it, and I just love my restaurant so much. It's like you say when you're firstborn child, I've never had one of those, but this certainly feels like it. This is what everyone describes. It's so beautiful, but the process has been very difficult. I could have opened 6 months ago.
Right.
Had I vetted the process behind some of these people a little more and not just paid attention to their income.
Yeah, and because we're so transactional often, it's like it's what's on the plate, and what's on the plate, the end product must be the culmination of a great process. That's not always the case. And look, it's everybody. It's always harder, takes longer, and costs more money. And so being impulsive and impatient is something that's sometimes a virtue. Our ability to be in the moment is strong, but it creates these issues. So I appreciate you talking about it. We need to talk about it more. We need to get past some of the facade that we put up sometimes because we're here to create a great experience. So I really appreciate that. All right, Scott.
I will say one more thing is the team is so important. Yes. Having good people around you, man. I have an awesome team. And as stoic as I think I've been, and I pretend I have been, there's been days where I almost just jumped off the roof of the building, and having that team to be like, sit down, here's a beer, take a deep breath. We're going to do fine. We know what we're doing. Having that support has been indispensable for me.
That's good. And everyone, you're going to hear more about that team as we're going to be sharing some content as we help Terra Restaurant gets launched.
That team is just the best. I know I'm biased, but I just love them so much.
That's it. You got to believe in them. They got to believe in you. All right, Scott, let's get you out of here. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you so much, Jensen.
It's an honor. Cheers.
Always.
All right, everyone. That is it. Great episode. Again, I'm so honored to be able to share about Scott, his team, their process. There's a lot of intersecting storylines that mean a lot to me personally and the work that we do at Best Served. All right. Once again, Best Served Podcast 371, Scott Schaden of Terra Restaurant on opening delays, menu stories, workplace culture. Appreciate you all as always. Cheers.